All throughout the season, there is always an air of mysticism and magic surrounding the Japanese metagame, and all that culminated this weekend at the 2024 Pokemon TCG Japan Championships at the Pacifico Yokohama Convention Center, the same place which saw Vance Kelly and his View Mimax deck be crowned world champion at the 2023 World Championships, defeating Pokemon TCG's final boss, Tord Reklev, in the finals. In this video, I will be going over how the Japanese players qualify for the World Championships, what 5 of the top 8 decks from this tournament looked like and what made them unique, as well as my takeaways from the metagame, and finally a rundown of the amazing finals match, which was super fun to watch. Even if I didn't understand the commentators, the plays are clear thanks to the card knowledge, and the energy in the room was amazing. On the stream, we saw familiar faces rise from the ashes, with the innovative Frostless decks shattering the established strategies. But alas, we also had well-known powerhouses like Raging Bolt EX and Lugia V-Star, and new strategies featuring Gouging Fire EX make their way through the competition. For Japan, this isn't just a tournament, it's a spectacle. The air filled with tension in between electrifying plays, each turn a potential turning point in a match. Imagine the gasps from the crowd and commentators as a clutch Jet Energy into Bloodmoon or Saluna EX swings the momentum, or the cheers erupting when all hope lies on a perfectly timed Pokemon catcher. All of these and many more moments of brilliance will certainly be etched into Pokemon TCG history.
来ました魂のコイン表が出た大きなガッツポーズ牧野祐介ここぞというポケモンキャッチャーネオラント V をつかみ取るこのまま極来号
The stakes for this tournament were colossal. Not only will the victor be crowned the Japan champion and cement their name in the Hall of Fame, but they'll also secure a coveted spot representing Japan at the World Championships. The Japanese qualifying system is very different from the one we are used to in the rest of the world, and I don't claim to be an expert on it, but to summarize, Japan will have a total of 76 Masters players at Worlds, top 4 of each Champions League throughout the season, the top 40 ranked players in their own championship points rankings, and finally, the top 32 players from the Japan Championships. Because of that, the pressure is immense, but the rewards are legendary as this is the last chance for a lot of players to qualify for the 2024 Pokemon TCG World Championships in Hawaii. Thankfully though, the Japan Championships Day 2 is played in a best of 3 setting, unlike the other major tournaments such as the Champions League, which are played in best of 1 all the way through, and players are allowed to switch their decks from one day to the next. This means the competition is more representative of what happens in the rest of the world at our majors. And so, what happened? Who won? What deck won and how? And most importantly, where can I find the list? I'm sure you clicked on this video to find an answer to all these questions, so let's jump into it. If you have enjoyed the video so far and found the information useful, please consider becoming a tablemon channel member through the join button down below. For as low as $1.99 a month, you can help support the creation of these videos. As of the making of this video, we actually don't know all the top 8 decks. We only know 5 of them. First place was Lugia V-Star. Second place was Raging Bolt EX. Third place was also Raging Bolt EX. Fourth place was another Lugia V-Star deck. And finally, one of the top 8 decks was Gardevoir EX. None of this should come as a surprise, as clearly all these decks are extremely powerful, consistent, and versatile. The Champion Lugia V-Star deck featured a very consistent build with Legacy Energy, Jamming Tower, and Bloodmoon Ursa Luna EX as new inclusions from Twilight Masquerade, as well as Fluttermane to help ensure they didn't outright lose to Iron Thorns EX, as well as having some good overall utility against any Lost Box decks. Notably though, were the absence of both Wellspring Ogerpon EX as well as Carmine. If Manaphy is everywhere, and you don't think you will get much value out of Ogerpon, I get it. But zero Carmine? Obviously Professor's Research is a more powerful card, unless you're going first, which happens half the time. Still though, no Carmine at all genuinely puzzles me as with my testing, I can't imagine running anything less than 3. But who am I to question the recently crowned champion? Outside of that, the deck looked as standard as Lugia V-Star gets, with a lot of damage potential with Cinccino, the threat of Ampy very much thanks to Legacy Energy, and a late game efficient attacker in Bloodmoon Ursa Luna EX. And you know what? That's okay. I often see too many players trying to be spicy or take a regional winning deck and immediately want to change it before even playing any games with the list, but taking a tried and proven deck is always a good choice. The The second place Raging Ball TX deck is honestly an amazing list, featuring the standard options you would expect from Raging Ball TX, but with a bit of disruption with 2 Iono, a bit more ghosting with 2 copies of Pokemon Catcher on top of Iron Bundle, which was MVP for this player in the finals, and I have to assume the whole tournament. While the 4th Ogre Pony X and the 7th Grass Energy feel like a surplus to me, once again, this deck just got 2nd place at one of the biggest and most prestigious tournaments in the planet, so I'm going to be playing with this list as is, and then I'll figure out if they are truly surplus or if they just round out the consistency of this amazing list. The 3rd place Lugia V-Star deck was a little more spicy than the Champions list, featuring a much thinner 2-tool line of Cinccino, which in turn opened up spots for other options like Radiant Charizard, Block Snorlax, and even Thornton. This list also featured everything else that is standard and expected in Lugia V-Star decks, and did include a single copy of Carmine too. Maybe I just need to let go of my Carmine crush. The 4th place Raging Ball TX list was also quite interesting, featuring a copy of Fluttermane as its only single prize attacker instead of the more common Sandy Shocks. This list on paper is a bit more quotation marks turbo due to running 4 trekking shoes, but the overall arcing list is very similar to the 2nd place one. One more notable inclusion though is the single copy of Lost Vacuum, probably as a way to have a bit of an easier time against Gardevoir EX decks. And finally, we get to the top 8 Gardevoir EX deck, featuring a lot of what you expect in Gardevoir and recognizing how powerful Munkidori is that it is playing 2 copies of the card. Alongside it, there is an interesting inclusion of Klefki. Compared to Fluttermane's ability which shuts down abilities from active, Klefki's Mischievous Lock actually shuts down all basic abilities on the bench as well, and thus it is a much harsher and effective lock when trying to take away opponents' Radiant Greninja, Squawkabilly X, Rotom V, Luminion V, Teal Mask Ogre Pony X, and of course the whole Lawson engine, all of which saw play during the event. The other peculiar inclusion is a copy of Tatsugiri, a card that many predicted would be included in most decks, but that hasn't been the case so far. With no rescue board in the deck, and with it not being Psychic type, I wonder how much value you get out of Tatsugiri occupying a very valuable bench space and being forced to attach an energy to it after you have used it in order to retreat. That's not the biggest issue for a Gardevoir EX player thanks to Psychic Embrace, but it's also not easy to do late game, as most will be in the discard pile by that point, and that is usually when Tatsugiri would be the most useful. Now, I'm sure chat will ask, but Tablemon, what about Dragapult EX? And where is Charizard EX? Weren't they also top decks? The answer is yes they are, but Raging Ball EX deals with both of them pretty decisively, and Lugia V-Star can usually go toe to toe against Charizard and adapts to Dragapult with a 70 HP Minchinos. But the overall takeaway from this is, this metagame is a lot more even. Charizard EX's reign of terror was on the decline, as evidenced by the results of the last few tournaments in the NA, EU and LATAM circuit, and it is now definitely over. And thus, we now move on to a more evenly spread metagame where multiple decks have a chance at succeeding. After all, this is only one tournament. The previous Champions League, for which we had results, featured no Raging Ball EX in the top 16 at all, and now we can see it doing extremely well. This is a natural progression of metagames, and while one deck might appear to be at the top one week, it might not be as successful the next. Now, regardless of the results, I have to say that this finals match was one of the most hype and fun games to watch, so if you haven't yet, I highly recommend you do so. It had me very hyped to cast NAIC this upcoming weekend, as I'm sure we are going to see plenty of exciting moments all throughout the tournament. If you don't have time to watch though, here's a quick breakdown. Game 1 started off super slow for both players, with Lugia V using Read the Wind multiple times, while the Raging Ball EX couldn't find a lightning or fighting to save its life. Eventually both players set up, and Sandy Shocks was the star of the show as it picked off all 3 Minchinos from the bench thanks to Prime Catcher, Boss's Orders and a Pokemon Catcher head slip. All the while, Lugia V-Star took down a pair of Ogre Pony X to get ahead in the prize race. However, the last Boss's Orders was locked up in the prizes for the Lugia player, and on the other side, the use of Iron Bundle was perfect. And thanks to Super Rod allowing it to be used multiple times, the Raging Ball player was able to put themselves in a situation where it all came down to a Pokemon Catcher flip because of the pesky Legacy Energy making Lugia V-Star a single prize Pokemon.
来ました。魂のコイン。表が出た。大きなガッツポーズ。 牧野祐介ここぞというポケモンキャッチャーネオラント V をつかみ取るこのまま局来号
I'm sure you could hear a pin drop when the coin was in the air, and the crowd, commentators, and the player went wild when the coin landed on hands. This allowed for them to take the last two prizes and win Game 1. Game 2 actually started off pretty bad for Lugia once again, as it could barely muster some Rita wins as Raging Bolt got ahead 4 prizes to 0. However, a perfectly timed Iono, coupled with a KO with Luminion V to take it off the board, and a crucial whiff off of the Iono for Raging Bolt meant it didn't attack at all. That's when things took a big turn, as a Blood Moon Ursa Luna EX with Legacy Energy attached was able to 1KO the next Raging Bolt EX thanks to Jamming Tower nullifying its Bravery Charm, and with Cinccino threat looming, Sandy Shocks came up to try and 2-hit KO Blood Moon Ursa Luna, unsuccessfully, as the Lugia player then used Cinccino to go down to 1 prize card, and despite getting Iono to 1, Gift Energy provided him with a brand new hand, giving him the option to Ultra Ball for Cinccino or funnily enough, his draw for turn being the Jamming Tower which allowed Blood Moon Ursa Luna to take another KO and seal the game. Finally in Game 3, with less than 14 minutes on the clock and everything at stake, the game started off at lightning pace, and both players were down to 2 prizes quite quickly. However, Raging Bolt was down Boss's Orders, Palpat and Prime Catcher, and thus they needed Pokemon Catcher heads alongside Professor Sada's Vitality and the right combination of energy to take down a bench Luminion V, which was a big ask after Lugia played Iono to bring them both to 2 cards in hand. Raging Bolt whiffed, and thus the Lugia player unsurprisingly walked away the winner.
Wait, did they pass? Oh, okay. I was like, why? I thought he had to do something else. He was just emotional. He's just emotional.
And that's all the coverage from the Japan Championships. As the days pass, I'm sure more and more lists will be shown, so definitely keep an eye out for those. And so the question remains, is Dragapult EX a lie? One did make it to top 16. What about Charizard EX? It's clearly been dethroned, but has it fallen so far off, or will it enjoy not having the spotlight all on it for once? I honestly cannot wait for NAIC after watching a lot of these matches, and I hope you will tune in as well. Either way, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet, because almost 2/3 of you aren't subscribed. It will really help out the channel, and thanks for the amazing support in the last few videos. Until next time! If you want to support the channel, you can use code tablemon to get 5% off at Potent Store for your online codes, 10% off for your sealed product at Flipside Gaming, and 10% off on your aluminum accessories at TC Evolutions. Or if you're looking to buy singles or sleeves, you can fill up your cart and close the tab, then click on the affiliate link in the description and check out. That way you can support the channel over at TCG Player, Card Market, and Dragon Shield. ¿Eres de México y necesitas cartas de Pokémon? Busca Hyperbeam Cards en Facebook e Instagram. Y si estás en Tijuana, búscalos en el local C27 en el Centro Comercial Otay.